Hi, welcome to this next chapter. We are going to be looking at using the accounts to prepare and maintain chart of accounts. That means we're going to be looking at, in this lesson, we're looking at setting up what the account numbers are, and then we're going to be looking at how we're going to post it to where we have all of the cash transactions in the same spot and all of the accounts payable in the same spot. And so we're looking at some of the ways that we'll be setting up filing and to open up the general ledger account. So let's go ahead and get into what this looks like. An account form is going to be basically summarizing all the information in the same spot. Here you put the account name, the account number, and then you'd put by date order, put all your transactions. You would put it as a debit or credit, and then you'd keep a running total over here on the balance. And so whatever column its normal balance is on is going to show up over here on the balance side. So for an asset account, the running total will show up as a debit. As a liability, the running total will show up as a credit. As an owner's equity, credit. As an expense account, debit. As a revenue account is going to be a credit. And as a drawing account, debit. And so, sorry, I forgot this page was here. So our chart of accounts will be having these in order, and you'll see that they skip by tens. Most places will set them up where they're tens apart. That way there's room in between to add if you need to put these in order. Your cash, petty cash are your first couple of accounts. Then you're going to have your accounts receivable, and then you put these in order alphabetically. Your accounts payable, the same way, you're putting them in order alphabetically. The owner's equity, the three accounts that you will have, and there will be nothing added in this section. You're going to have your capital, drawing, and income summary. Income summary we're going to hit later on and talk about how we'll use it. Your revenue accounts, sales is your biggest revenue, and that's a 400 account. There might be other ones in here, but right now for this unit where we're dealing with sole proprietorship, sales is about the only revenue we use. On expense accounts, these will be all your expenses, and again they're listed in order from alphabetical order from A on. You usually will have a miscellaneous expense filled in there to catch all the things that you may not have another spot for. And the group of accounts is called a ledger. The ledger needs to contain all ledger that contains all the accounts need to prepare is your general ledger. And name given to the account is account title and account number. And so the general ledger division is going to be divided by that first number. So if it's a 100, that tells you it's an asset. If it's a 200, it's a liability. 300, owner's equity. 400, revenue. 500 is expense. And so here we have the assigning the account numbers. We've had the 560 is miscellaneous expense and 570 is supplies expense. But let's say we need to add something between. We realize that we use a lot of postage, and postage is going to be one of our new expenses. So P falls between M and S. And so I cut half the distance and do it 565, and that's what my new account will be. But let's say I also realize that I need to separate out my water expenses. That's going to needs to be separated away from other utility expenses. And so water will go after supply, and there's nothing else there. So it just counts in with 10 extra. So if you're having to go between, you split the difference. That means you find the middle point. And if you're going at the end, you just keep on with the same pattern. So to open a general ledger account, you're going to put the account name here, account number here. And the two parts of the account number The first digit is which ledger division it is, and the second and third digits are location within that division. The 2 steps for opening an account: write the account title after the word account. And the heading. Excuse me, write the account number after the words account number in the heading. And that's all we're working on today. Tomorrow we'll actually get into where you're actually posting information in. So let's look and see what we need to do on the work together. So in the work together, you're first just taking and identifying the classification. So a payable is a liability. And you see up here it says balance sheet and income statement. We are going to have big pages that we are going to be dealing with what we have. And balance sheet is going to talk about certain things. Income statement is going to talk about your revenues and expenses. Income statement tells you if you're profitable or not profitable. Balance sheet kind of shows you where you're at with your assets on your business. So the accounts receivable is an asset. Accounts payable is a liability. Accounts receivable, asset. Expense account goes all the way over here to expense. Insurance expense, all the way over here to expense. Prepaid insurance, that's an asset. Drawing account is an owner's equity. Cash is an asset. Sales is a revenue. Oops, clicked on the wrong line. Supplies is an asset, but the expense for supplies is over an expense. Automobile expense is an expense. Capital is an owner's equity. Rent expense is an expense. Grade step 1. Now let's go on to the next step. Okay, now we're going to put our account numbers on. So let's go ahead and look at the Seville Company chart of accounts. The balance sheet accounts are your ones that are going to be kind of showing where your statement is, where you are. The income is going to show you how profitable you are. So we're going to put them in order. Under assets, we need to get the first thing on assets is always your cash. The next thing, if you have the option, is your petty cash, but we are not that far in the units yet. That will be the next one normally. And then you'll go into your accounts receivable. And looking at the last name, North and Valar, I can't read my Varez, are the 2 last names. We're going to put them in order alphabetically. So North comes next at 120. Greg comes after that at 130. Then we have our prepaid insurance and supplies. And, oops, I clicked on the wrong one. I went to typical supplies next, 140. And prepaid insurance. And they're kind of nice to you on those two. They didn't give you options. They're not going to give you options from going in. Now we're going to liabilities. Again, it's going to be alphabetized. And these are company names, so they're going to go by the first part of it. So Annika Supplies comes first at 210. We're in the 200s because we're in the liabilities. And then accounts payable, Supply Mart next. Capital always gets listed first, and then drawing, and then we'll have a third account added into this that's income summary. Revenue, we're now over in our income statement. These are showing you, you're taking in what you're bringing in and what you're spending, and your income statement is going to reconcile those two numbers. We are going to, the 400s are your revenue. And you start at 410 because you always start, we're counting by tens, we're not counting by ones. And then on your expenses, you're going to list them alphabetically. So automobile first, then insurance, then miscellaneous expenses, then rent, then supplies. And all I did is just go through the alphabet and put them in order alphabetically. Now we're, I must have clicked on 110. That was supposed to be insurance was second, so that's 120 or 520. Now we are going to put in some new accounts. So Ms. Seville has been classifying postage cost as a miscellaneous expense and found out that she's doing a lot in postage and it's going to become a major expense category. And she needs to separate that account. She also needs to create a new account for utilities expenses to add to the chart of accounts. So if we look at it, and these are already been put back in order alphabetically, so they're in order for us to look at. Postage comes between miscellaneous expense and rent expense. So the account number for postage should be 535 because it's going to fit between those two. The account number for utilities expense is going to fall after supplies, so we just add 10 more to what we had on supplies, and that's at 560. Now in a blank ledger, we're going to, at those identified numbers, open a cash account ledger. So what is entered on number 1? That's the account name, cash. And location 2 is the account number, so we go up here, and a cash has 110 as its number. So 110. And y'all will do one very similar to this for on your own, and don't forget to do your application.